Hi, and welcome to More Human, More Resources, the HR podcast for entrepreneurs. I'm Vicki Brown, your host and CEO of Vidamaneo Enterprises. As a serial entrepreneur, I understand that having the right expert help has been critical to my success. That's why I'm dedicated to telling you, in plain language, what's going on in the world of HR that might impact your business and what you need to do about it, with real actionable tips to help you master that list of must-dos and grow your leadership muscle. First things first, the information contained in this podcast is provided for general purposes only and is not to be considered legal advice. Your decision to adopt or not adopt any practice or procedure mentioned in this podcast is solely yours, and we bear no responsibility for the outcome. We urge you to always consult legal counsel and other appropriate licensed professionals. And with that, let's get into the show. You're listening to Season 3, Episode 42. So this topic came up for me recently, the issue of moonlighting. That's the practice of holding a second job, often in the evening or during free hours, in addition to your primary job. It's kind of been in the news a lot lately. With people working remotely from home, there are all sorts of stories about them having multiple jobs, and their employer, or should I say employers, didn't even know. Now, I know for a lot of employers, that kind of thing makes your hair stand on end. But the fact is that depending on where you're located, moonlighting may be protected. Actually, in California, it's not uncommon for employees to take on secondary roles to support their lifestyle, passions, or simply to explore a new opportunity. And yes, California is one of those states that protects moonlighting. Yeah, in California, moonlighting is not illegal. This state, like many others, protects what an employee does during their non-work hours. However, it's not as clear as it sounds. There are guardrails around conflict of interest, performance, and company policies, and those guardrails can create a complex matrix for both you as the employer and your team member to navigate. Now, I'm sure it doesn't come as any surprise that California has always been at the forefront of employee rights. This state firmly believes in an individual's right to privacy and autonomy, especially when they're off the clock. That principle holds that what an employee does during their own time is their business, so long as it doesn't violate any laws or explicit company policies. And now, the guardrails. The first is the gray zone of conflict of interest. One of the primary concerns most businesses have is the potential conflict of interest that can happen when an employee moonlights. What if their secondary job is with a competitor or a vendor? Or what if their role in the other job actually compromises the integrity or confidentiality of their primary job? Well, that's where company policies can play a role. To safeguard its interests, a business can require their employees to disclose any external employment. Then the company can assess whether the secondary job presents any potential conflicts. For instance, if you're running a software development firm, and you discover that one of your key developers is moonlighting for a direct competitor, well, it's reasonable to worry about intellectual property leaks. But if your policy requires the employee to disclose that other relationship, well, then you can take a reasonable look at what's involved and determine if this is a real or potential problem. Now, if the other job is to work for them 9 to 5, Monday through Thursday in customer service, and your job is for them to work 9 to 5 Monday through Friday in customer service, well then those two things can't happen at the same time. And in fact, that time isn't the employee's own time. It's time they're obligated to you. So, and you knew I would say this sooner or later, check with your labor counsel. But it would be pretty difficult for that employee to make an argument for holding those two jobs at the same time. Now, beyond conflicts of interest, there's the issue of job performance. Working multiple jobs can be taxing, both mentally and physically. If an employee's performance in their primary role starts to slip due to fatigue or distractions or divided commitments from their secondary job, well, that's a valid concern for employers. And while California employers can't penalize someone simply for having a second job, they can hold them accountable for not meeting their responsibilities or performance standards in their job. So, Leaders have got to maintain an open communication channel and make sure that both employees understand the expectations and that they're consistently met. Okay, so what's the fix? What should you do? Well, here are 4 key best practice points. First up, disclosure. You should have a clear policy in place that requires employees to disclose any secondary employment. It's not about control, but it is about understanding and managing potential risks. You have to have a process in place that makes sure that you're kept in the loop. Next, performance reviews. Regular check-ins can help assess if that employee's secondary job is impacting their performance in their primary role. Be objective and base any decisions on actual job performance, and not just because you're out of sorts because they have a second job. Next, conflict assessment. If your employee discloses secondary employment, take the time to evaluate any potential conflicts genuinely, and remember to avoid knee-jerk reactions, and make sure you assess each situation on its own merits. And finally, education. Employees may not fully understand the potential pitfalls or challenges of moonlighting, but with regular training or informational sessions, you can help guide them so that they make informed choices. If you found this information helpful, please leave a review and tell a friend. Thanks for spending the time. Until next week, same time, same place.